And welcome to the KOT podcast. Brendan, how's it going?
It's good. In true ATG fashion, we just got done with a bunch of Nordic, so I'm a little winded, but I'm good.
Yeah, it's like warming up the voice, but for the KOT podcast, you warm up the hamstrings, you warm up some eccentric Nordics.
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. This is a really fun style of podcast because it's useful, and we'll dive right in. Brendan goes by ATG Sprinter on Instagram. His goal is to run faster. If he can figure out how to break speed plateaus for himself, he can probably better relate to people doing the ATG program how to get faster. So there's only two questions. The first question is, what has worked so far to make you faster? And then just so you know, the second question is basically we'll look at, well, what's your plan from here? Yeah. How do you plan to run even faster? And we'll dive into all the numbers you're working at, what numbers you can do now, where you're going. So what's worked so far for speed from the ATG program?
Yeah, so for me, just a 10-second little recap or just context, I was the slowest guy to ever touch a track in high school. And even just through hard work alone and mediocre training, I did improve a lot. But like most people that start training really hard to catch up and become an outlier, you run into overuse injuries because I was trying to work harder, but at things that weren't really keeping me protected. And so all that to say, the things from the ATG program that have helped the most is just really the fact that I've been able to get healthy and stay healthy and train year round has been like the biggest advantage, more than any short-term advantage of, doing this program quick or a 12-week boost on speed here, which I've done all of them. Being pain-free to be able to train month after month, year after year since I started ATG a couple of years ago has been a game changer. So
let's break down what injuries, what pains were you going through, what exercises and numbers helped you overcome those pains?
Yeah, so it started with knee injury, and just in light of KOT guy, that's why this is insane.
Is that how you found my stuff?
Oh, yeah, okay. Absolutely.
How long ago?
That was the first chronic injury in 2016, and I had a patellar tendon tear, and then I had surgery for it, which didn't really help, and I eventually found the Patrick Step Up from none other than Ben Patrick.
Oh.
And
Instagram or what?
Yeah, that was in like 20...
Early days?
Yeah, early days. The content was getting there. So healing the knee was big for me, and that was a definite first step. And then I had shin splints that plagued me for another 2 years that took me out from college running for a good portion of my eligibility, and I had stress fractures. And then I got a sports hernia.
What exercises, just to recap, what exercises do you feel helped your knee most?
Okay.
What exercises then are helping shin splints most? And then we'll get to the next injuries.
Yeah, so for the knee, training short range work, like the step up was huge. I didn't have access to a sled and I didn't know about it yet. If I did then, I think I would have recovered so much faster knowing what I know now just of the sled alone.
But it's a similar movement pattern.
Exactly.
By short range, he means that you're actually not moving through much range of motion, but you are, whether you're doing a backward sled or a reverse step up, you're doing the same motion.
Yeah.
The sled's a bit smoother.
Right.
But they're both great exercises.
Right. I couldn't tolerate full squats. I thought all of that stuff was completely out of my capabilities. But what I found was the only thing I could do was hold on to something and do little steps down a stair. And I built my tolerance from that, and I started doing loaded work. And I think I worked to getting like half body weight in across both hands with dumbbells for sets of 20. And by the time I could do that, I could squat full range. And then I started to get into just more traditional lifting again.
And now your split squat looks perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're squatting really strong, full range of motion. Okay. And from there, shins.
Right.
We've talked about shins a lot.
Yeah.
I see you working on stuff throughout the week for your shins. So what are you working on for shins? Yeah.
So shin splints they're like the number one injury that seems like a rite of passage into track. And like I found that the only thing out there was little walks and drills, and that didn't really help me. So once I got introduced to the Tibialis Raise, which seems so intuitive, yet many people have never thought of doing it, that was a game changer. So I've done at least thousands of reps on the wall, and then getting into the seated calf raise and getting right behind the tibia, right behind the bone that gets that stress fracture. You can train both sides of the bone and protect from all the forces that come from running. After focusing on that, everything just started to go away, and I started to feel like I could handle literally any amount of running at least in my lower leg. So that was a huge game changer.
And you're working with the Tib Bar now.
Yeah, which is
So like you're trying to
also-
really jack up strength.
Yeah, take what got me out of pain with the easier exercises, and now I treat it like some real strength training, and it fires me up. I love it, and I feel pain-free. So.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm working on my loaded Tib Bar, jacking up the strength.
Yeah.
We both work on the seated calf, trying to jack up strength.
Yep.
If someone doesn't have a seated calf machine, you could look into the KOT calf raise.
Right.
Drew is putting visuals of everything we talk about on this podcast. When it gets into training details, you can watch the YouTube version so you can see what we're talking about. So basically, Brendan used strength training for the knee, strength training for the lower legs. Like you, I never was loaded on a tibialis raise, even though to get through practices, I used to have to pre-wrap my entire lower legs and put tape. And I thought shin splints was just like a way of life. Right. And I thought I would never dunk a basketball off one foot because of my shin splints. So there was a time, even in my mid to late 20s, where I was like, well, I'm just never going to be able to dunk a basketball with a 1 foot jump because it hurts my shin too much. Okay, I can do a 2 foot jump with some minimal shin pain, but 1 foot is too excruciating for my shin. Well, now I've gotten way measurably stronger through the soleus, which is the lower, deeper calf muscle, has the strongest pull of any muscle in the human body pound for pound. So that soleus is the muscle that's closest there to your Achilles, and it's so strong pound for pound. So the soleus could be underrated for some of the long-term speed stuff.
Yeah.
So to start transitioning, some of the things we talk about to get us out of pain, we theorize that staying focused on strengthening it for 5 or more years. Yeah. So how old are you right now?
I'm 24.
24. So the idea is that by now treating some of these areas that could give us advantages for bulletproofing and athleticism the same way someone treats their bench press or squat or deadlift. So we have numbers for all these exercises we're talking about. We're trying to measurably increase the strength. So we think that the seated calf and the loaded tibialis bar, like we're trying to get stronger at those for the next 5 years and see what happens.
Absolutely.
As we come up to the knees, ATG split squats, reverse step ups. We think for speed, maybe, let's talk about the reverse step ups because one thing we're doing for your speed is in your bonus work, we're working on a Peterson step up.
Right.
A Peterson step up means you're putting the weight onto the ball of your foot and balancing. So it's not just knee strength. Yeah. It's lower leg strength. Yeah. So what are your goals with the Peterson step up?
Man, well, that's one of the most humbling exercises because it is definitely shows a lot of weakness and exposes if you've only been doing traditional strength training from the hips down and squats, which my training age in terms of the big lifts is almost 10 years, but my training age on these little muscles and in the direct ways we hit it is almost less than a year or two, which lets me make crazy gains fast, almost newbie gains for a new exercise, but it's tough. So the Peterson step up, we're trying to match. I want to match my squat, whatever I can do for 2 reps on a squat, full depth with a pause. I want to be able to have that same weight on my back and do off a 6-inch step for 20 reps. And so the Peterson's where
freaky.
Yeah, and the Peterson variation is when you let the heel come up and you're actually controlling through the arch of the foot, through the soleus, up to the knee. It's pretty much like if you can do that weight on 20 reps on the Peterson, it's pretty hard to hurt yourself while running.
That's a good point.
That's how I feel about it. So
you're in that exact position. It's basically, can you harness the power of your hip through your knee and your lower leg? Yeah. And when he says 10 years of training age, what he's saying is that he's probably done 10 years of traditional strength training, but only a year or so of ATG style strength training. Yep. So the idea, maybe an ATG exercise gets someone out of pain in 6 weeks or something like that. But what if he now strengthens these areas for the next 6 years compared to someone who keeps training traditionally? Right. So as we move up, you mentioned hernia, and you and I talk about hip flexors a lot. Tons. So let's break down hip flexors. Let's break down what your goal is for speed on the hip flexors.
Yeah. So
and what went on with the hernia.
Yeah, the sports hernia, though, this ties a lot into track athletes. If there's any track athletes that watch this, and you know the obsession about 6-pack ab work, and we do tons of crunches. My strength coach would have us do 25 ab crunches in between every strength set of a lift. So we're doing like 300 of these upper rectus abdominals just in your abs, which leaves a huge strength discrepancy from your lower ab wall to the hip flexors. And so all of that just leading to my injury. I had a sports hernia in my lower ab wall and groin that I think it's just from doing so much of one area and not balancing it out. And that stopped me from running for almost 2 years.
Jeez.
And the movements that really brought me back, and I thought I was going to have to get surgery because of it, but the ATG Split Squat, I remember when I first started training it, it was so painful, and it was directly where the pain and problem was that I just thought, okay, let me try my best to train it to a flat ground, pain-free range, and let me see what running feels like after. Like if I can take the thing I'm the worst at that's killing me and make that pain-free, before I do a surgery I can never go back from, and then potentially, have to deal with long-term side effects of that, let me just try this one thing. And I kid you not, the ATG Split Squat completely got me out of the pain in the lower hip from the lower abs, just from that loaded stretch that we do, strength through length. And so, big explanation of why I love the ATG Split Squat. That's kind of what opened me up to like the hip flexors are something we need to train with intent, like with real load, with real focus, just like a squat. We talk so much about it and we experiment all the time. We realize like as strong as we've gotten with the reverse squat, we're still so far from how much we've done for hip extension and the squats and the deadlifts that we've all done. So those are big ones. We're doing reverse squat like maniacs. We're doing hip flexor raises with the monkey foot.
Yep.
So
Let me break down some visuals.
Yeah.
And then we'll look at the numbers. So when Brennan's talking about ATG split squat, the original idea was to use this to rehabilitate each knee one side at a time. But over time, we realized that the back leg is under load and is working on strength through length. So Drew has some good recent visuals. We were doing like a video to show kind of how the split squat can relate to different mobility. So we have kind of a rear diagonal visual. So you can see how these hip flexors are lengthening under load. So that would provide a lot of adaptation. And then when Brendan says reverse squat, now we're talking about the hip flexors actually trying to flex. Just like if you were doing a bicep curl and you're trying to flex your bicep, with a reverse squat, we're loading up to a cable machine and we're trying to flex those hip flexors. If you don't have a cable machine, get a monkey foot. It attaches to a dumbbell. And if you keep the back leg locked out, strict quad glute flexed, and get your knee above parallel, then you can get a strict measurable load on your hip flexor of lifting weight. So we would call that category of motion reverse squat. So Drew, let's compare that to a squat. And again, most people have been lifting weights, have spent 10 or more years squatting. So they're trying to extend, they're trying to stand up. But then if we look at a reverse squat, we're looking at it pretty similar to a reverse motion of a squat. So like in ATG, we squat until our hamstrings cover our calves, and we reverse squat until our hamstrings cover our calves. So it's these opposing muscles. And to run, you have to put force into the ground, but you also then have to pick up your legs very quickly. Yeah. So what you find is that the greatest genetic speedsters, meaning people who can run fast naturally, like they haven't done training to run fast, they just can run fast naturally. Yep. And they have way stronger hip flexors than the average person. So if you go into the weight room and you just increase your squat, that's awesome. But if that was the case, then like every Olympic weightlifter could just go out and run the 100 meters and beat everyone. So they've spent year after year after year squatting, not necessarily working the reverse of a squat. So truly, if you want to reach your peak speed, what we realized is that you're going to have to actually get proportionally as strong, meaning spend as much time, as many sets, as many reps, with as much intent and measurable targets and pushing yourself in the reverse of a squat as you do with a squat. And we know that no one in the world is doing that for speed.
Right. Not yet.
Not yet. So let's break down those numbers. For a long time, we thought that half body weight for 20 reps was pretty good on reverse squat. And that is pretty good, but we're quickly seeing those numbers are higher. So where are you trying to get your hip flexors to right now on reverse squat? What weight for what reps? Yeah. With what form?
When I first started and I came and did the real reverse squat, I couldn't even do that standard, the half body weight. And I was so humbled. And like I said, anything you haven't trained before and you start giving it intent, the gains come really fast and it's exciting. And so we thought 2/3 would be like the money. If you can hit that, you're pretty solid all around.
It seems like you're already kind of hitting
I'm already there now after a few months, and I'm doing it probably more than anyone else.
Oh, so Brennan's definitely Brennan's training reverse squats more than anyone in ATG. So that means he's probably training measurable overload reverse squats more than anyone in the world.
Yeah, and it may not be the best long-term experiment, but we're kind of using me as the guinea pig to figure out a speed formula. So we're seeing if I do too much, we're going to pull it back. But what I'm at now,
it's a pretty smooth motion though. So
it's great.
Pretty easy to recover from. Yeah. Everything we do is still pretty moderate. Like we're not talking about like 2 a day, 7 days a week. So In general, training it once a week, like 3 sets of
That's
3
great.
to 4 sets of up to 20 reps once a week is very effective, and someone will catch up. But we have extra weak point days, so maybe you're training it 3-4 times a week.
Yeah, sometimes a little more. I sneak it in. I'm kind of that's the thing about me is like I'm a gym rat, and I kind of sneak in too much. So
that's cool that maybe if you go too hard on that, you just get more balanced and healthy. So that's kind of
absolutely
like you did extra work on the sled today, but the sled is going to heal you. Exactly.
And so I said earlier that for all the people that want to be outliers and have the bad genetics and actually become the best on your team, if you're in high school, you probably go in with the mindset of, I need to do more than everybody. And that's so awesome. But if you do more than everybody under a program that isn't going to take care of you, you're probably going to get injured. And
could just injure you more.
And I know you've been there. I
right.
know, like we work just as hard now as we do 10 years ago.
I worked harder when I was beat up.
Me too. And now it's taking care of us as much as we're putting work into it. Such a great thing. But for the reverse squat number, I just want to get it on the record.
Yeah.
Because, as soon as I say it out there, now I got to hit it.
A lot of pressure.
Right. I'm pretty sure that for 20 reps, what I think is actually going to be a good standard for sprinters who train it intently is going to be body weight.
Yeah, I agree.
Sounds insane where we started from.
Yeah.
And if you haven't trained it, you're going to load up the weight and realize you probably can only do a third. But it's like all things that you've trained seriously with intent, your crazy dreams become normal as if you work at it consistently enough with intent. And so, I'm getting close to it, and I'm not in a rush either.
Yep.
I have to do a lot of couch stretch and, longer range stuff to make sure I'm not getting tight.
Also, the consistency and the intent with which you train it, meaning if you look at powerlifters, Olympic weightlifters, they can be good examples because even some powerlifters can get extremely strong and they're not necessarily overtraining. So even powerlifters, it's not like they're only just bench pressing every day, but they're caring about certain lifts and channeling their energy into increasing certain lifts.
More than others.
So you can still channel and focus on certain exercises. But I also think when you're saying, reverse squat, your own body weight, 20 reps, you're also talking about years of training. But I also a power lifter would laugh at you if you thought that you would become world-class without years of training. So the idea is years of training of things in the weight room that can then make your body more like the genetic freak to run fast.
Yeah, and it's what do you care about, doing? I'm not trying to win the gym. We love squats still. We did a lot of sets of squats. We still do all the
basics.
Right.
You're excellent at your dips and chin-ups. Mm-hmm. You're training your lower back. You're training all these different areas.
Yeah.
Knee flexion, hamstrings, you also probably will have to be extra strong at Nordics and hamstring curls.
Absolutely. And that's one of my weaknesses. I talk to you all the time about. It's surprising that even given my sprint background and like I have decent musculature in some areas, like my hamstrings compared to non-runners, I'm fragile still and not as good at the ones where it counts, which to me fires me up because it's like, imagine when I actually get good at the things that count most. It's like if you're trying to be a dunker and your best lift is the bench, it's like, well, that's cool.
Yeah.
But, so.
Fastest, speedy guys I've trained had freaky hamstrings naturally. Mm-hmm. So if you're only out there running and you're naturally not fast, how are you going to get advantage on the guys running?
Of course.
You have to have a pretty dang good hamstring program.
Yeah.
So I think without really good back extensions, really good remaining deadlifts, really good Nordics, hamstring curl, like
we're making breakthroughs.
There's quite a bit there, but to mimic the hamstrings of the best athletes genetically, that's another area that you're going to have to put extra attention. But if we assess everything, you're trying to get strong at all the exercises of the ATG program.
Yeah.
But it seems like the ones that you're proportionally trying to get stronger at is through those lower leg muscles.
Yeah.
And that Peterson Step Up specifically, which we don't even think everyone has to do. Like for most people, just backward sled. Yeah. But that becomes very speed specific.
Yeah.
And extra hip flexors.
Yep.
Like you don't want your squat to be like out of balance to your hip flexors.
Right.
And freaky hamstrings. I mean, that's even in terms of like loading the back extension, full range of motion, trying to get stronger at it.
Yeah.
There's an outlier. Not many people are trying to load that with full intent.
And there's a trail of history you can study if you really look at it the same way you studied dunkers and jumpers, Kadorziani and Stephen Holmes. If you look at, FloJo, she was doing hamstring curls every single day at home. Maybe, the methods weren't the best, or they didn't have the, best reps and sets.
Success leaves clues.
There's a lot of clues. You look at a picture of Fred Curley I just saw that got, I think, silver in the 100. He has a bicep on top of his thigh. Like his rectus femoris, his hip flexor is literally this high off of his leg. Yeah. And people will look at that and say, well, that's genetics. And it's like exactly the point.
Yeah.
I don't have that. So what can I do to get even closer to that, even a little bit? That's where I want to focus on. And so, to the foot, soleus, hamstrings, hip flexor, those should be your most proud lifts if you're trying to sprint faster.
Pretty sweet. So this will definitely be a good one to update over time, to see how your progress is going, to see what numbers are relating to sprinting. It hasn't been a terribly long podcast, so I'll just, we're sorting out different details. So I will, with Brendan, I can list and make kind of just a good summary of this, so that in the description for this on YouTube, we can summarize, okay, Brendan's trying to have all the ATG athletic numbers down, but what areas is he prioritizing on those weak point days? So that may give you some ideas if you're someone who wants to run faster. For some people, running faster can be the difference between getting a college scholarship or getting a pro contract and making millions of dollars. And most importantly, we're doing things that, these same exercises have my mom able to run at 68 years old.
That's the most insane thing I've seen all week.
Yeah.
That video we shot with her, no warm-up, she's incredible.
68 years old, no warm-up sprinting. So the idea is that we're taking exercises that by putting in the work at them, we get more bulletproof in the process, not just running faster, but actually getting more bulletproof in the process. So, Brennan, thanks for your ultra hard work. He is working his butt off, and we always go over the same thing. You want to help ATG? You want to be a better coach? Run faster.
Just live what you're talking about.
That's the ATG way. Brennan can only help us if he runs faster. So give his page a follow. He's living it. He's out there trying to run faster to help you to even better results.
Thank you. It'll all be out there transparent. Meets I run.
No secrets.
Progress. Good meets, bad meets. I don't think we have it all figured out yet, but I'm getting I'm getting closer, man, and it's exciting.
And we got some good long-term strategic routes, so I'm going to be dunking on fools when I'm 40 instead of breaking down. And like Brendan, because I play basketball, I'm trying to run faster. So I'm trying to have all the numbers. I'm trying to get more jacked. I'm trying to run faster. Yeah. So we have some really good conversations, and I'm working on everything he's talking about as well. So.
Thank you so much. This is awesome for the person that maybe 15 years old and where I was at in 15. If we have any visuals of that, man, I promise if I'm on a podcast talking about speed, you have the advantage to be watching this. You can be
so bulletproof.
The fastest 100 team in 3-4 years. Yeah. It just takes, the right guidance and belief. So thank you, Ben.
Your potential is massive. See ya, Forrest, Drew. So much. Thank you, guys. We're doing brick check.
Brick check!
Forrest told me we're doing the brick check.
Had a big lunch. Forrest, you need to Photoshop, all right? There we go.
You gotta move this. Oh, you gotta move it out of the way. We gotta move it out of the way.
Okay.
Brennan's new to the brick check. Looking good. Looking good. Let's go.
Baby
all right.
Bricks.
Love you guys. See ya.
Thank you.